The city lay draped in a veil of perpetual twilight, its skyline a mix of jagged modern towers and crumbling facades that whispered of a bygone era. Beneath this brooding canopy, secrets festered like wounds never allowed to heal, and within its tangled streets, the remnants of lost memories coalesced into an ever-shifting maze. It was here that retired detective Elias Vance had chosen to reside, a man whose life had been irrevocably altered by the case that had consumed him for decades. Once celebrated for his astute reasoning and relentless pursuit of truth, Elias now lived in quiet solitude, perpetually haunted by the unsolved disappearance of philanthropist Jonathan Thorne. In the early days of his career, Elias had soared on the wings of idealism, eager to illuminate even the darkest corners of human nature. But as time passed, he came to understand that the truth was often a mosaic of contradictions, and that justice, elusive as a shadow at dusk, could sometimes be a vice that tightened around the hearts of those who pursued it. The case involving Jonathan Thorne was perhaps the most cruel paradox of all. Thorne, known widely for his charitable donations and his seemingly unblemished record as a benefactor, had vanished one rain-slick evening, leaving behind only whispers of dissent and an enigma that continued to haunt the city's corridors of power. Elias spent many restless nights piecing together fragments of evidence that never quite assembled into a coherent narrative. The investigation, riddled with dead ends and red herrings, had carried the promise of closure even as it delivered only more uncertainty. Over the years, his relentless pursuit of the truth had left him with scars both visible and hidden. Then, on one seemingly ordinary afternoon, when the city still reeled from its own burdens, Amelia arrived. Amelia, a young woman whose eyes carried the weight of experiences beyond her tender years, claimed to be the last known witness of Jonathan Thorne's disappearance. She moved with a fragile determination and an air of desperation that belied her youthful facade. The tale of Amelia was one draped in mystery. She had lived her life in the shadows of influential families and powerful cabals, her existence marred by the turbulent interplay of loyalty and betrayal. Her account of that fateful night was delivered not in frantic, disjointed outbursts, but in carefully measured admissions of peril and sorrow. The city itself seemed to lean in closer as the story unfolded, its damp alleys and silent park benches resonating with the unspoken truths of the past. Every glimmer of light against the backdrop of darkness became a silent witness to the unfolding drama, each shadow cast by a street lamp an echo of memories long suppressed. In this somber urban theater, the lines between the hunter and the hunted blurred. The detective who once reveled in the thrill of the chase now found himself ensnared in a web woven by the very intricacies he had spent a lifetime trying to escape. Amelia's revelations awakened a dormant part of his soul. Navigating the labyrinth of the city and of his own memories, Elias retraced steps once dismissed as mere coincidences. Each clue unearthed became a thread in a tapestry of hidden agendas and covert alliances. His investigation led him to grimy back rooms where whispered conversations floated in the stagnant air. As the pace of discovery quickened, so too did the sense of imminent threat. An unseen enemy, an orchestrator of chaos and discord, seemed to pull the strings behind the scenes. One whose motives were as masked as the myriad secrets held within the city's heart. The relentless pursuit of the truth incurred a toll. Elias found himself grappling with the profound realization that every revelation carved deeper into his soul, exposing frailties he had long attempted to conceal. The echoes of his past, the faces of those he had lost, the sound of whispered regret on silent nights, reverberated with each step he took deeper into this treacherous inquiry. Amelia's precarious position was similarly burdened by the weight of dangerous truths. Whispers of imminent peril trailed her at every turn. The knowledge she carried, the identity she embodied as the last known witness, placed her in the crosshairs of forces that avoided the light of day. Each time she navigated the darkened corners of the city. As the investigation unfolded, Elias began to see parallels between his own tortured past and the perilous journey that Amelia now faced. Their lives, though separated by years and circumstance, were intertwined through a shared odyssey of desperation and redemption, a mission to confront the legacies of broken trust and the specters of power. Every step they took led them deeper into a realm where nothing was as it seemed, where allies could be enemies and every revelation carried with it the potential for new, unforeseen consequences. Hidden safe houses and clandestine meeting spots revealed fragments of information that, when viewed as part of a larger mosaic, recounted a story of deep-seated corruption. The disappearance of Jonathan Thorne, once shrouded in the trappings of a simple missing persons case, now emerged as a symbol of the high stakes involved in a relentless struggle for power. In a world where the past was a trap and forgiveness a luxury few could afford, trust became the most potent weapon, a fragile but vital currency capable of bridging the chasm between doubt and conviction. Through deserted streets and forgotten lanes, Elias and Amelia navigated the treacherous path laid out before them. Their collective journey was punctuated by unexpected detours. An innocuous clue would suddenly transform into a vital piece of a puzzle that seemed to expand with every turn they took. The city, with all its hidden intricacies, offered no quarter to those who dared challenge the established order. The tension that gripped the city was palpable, a constant reminder that danger lurked just behind the next shadow. Elias's meticulous investigations, once punctuated by calculated steps and forensic precision, gradually yielded to a raw, almost reckless determination spurred by the hope of a final, cathartic resolution. Each long-forgotten memory conjured in the flicker of a street lamp or the hum of passing traffic added layers of urgency to his quest. Amelia's journey, too, mirrored this internal strife. She found herself standing at the crossroads of trust and disillusionment, her every decision weighted by the consequences of both her past and the looming threat that sought to silence her forever. The narrative of her life, embroidered with threads of longing, betrayal, and fierce determination, resonated with the deep chords of a city that had long abandoned innocence in favor of survival. In the unyielding twilight of their quest, the city itself transformed into a silent witness, a repository of memories, regrets, and unspoken confessions. Its rain-slicked pavements bore the weight of bygone promises and concealed allegiances that refused to fade with time. Every brick and every alleyway vibrated with the echoes of secrets, and in that symphony of silence, the truth began to emerge in fragments too potent to ignore. As Elias found himself drawn deeper into the relentless spiral of revelations, he came to comprehend that the danger he now faced was as much internal as it was external. The mystery that had long haunted him was not an isolated incident but a complex tapestry of human ambition, desire, and relentless pursuit. A narrative that spanned generations and was intricately stitched into the fabric of the city's history. Every piece of evidence, no matter how trivial it might have once appeared, now shone with the light of a hidden agenda, beckoning him to question the motives of those who had once operated in the shadows. His transformation was palpable. The calm resignation of a retired detective was giving way to a fierce, almost vengeful determination, one that sought not only to solve the mystery of Thorne's disappearance but to liberate his own soul from the confines of a guilt-ridden past. The profound revelation that emerged amidst the labyrinth of deceit was as shocking as it was inevitable. Amelia, with her fragile strength and quiet resolve, was not merely a witness to the event that had shattered so many lives. She was, in fact, the linchpin of an elaborate design that connected disparate threads of corruption, power, and betrayal. This realization transformed the nature of their journey, imbuing it with a gravity that transcended simple investigative fervor. It became a battle for redemption, an attempt to reclaim not only the narrative of a singular case, but the very notion of justice itself. The delicate line that separated personal sacrifice from ruthless ambition blurred into insignificance in the face of an enemy that thrived on obscurity and manipulation. In the final, desperate hours of their quest, as the murk of deception threatened to once again engulf the city, Elias and Amelia advanced toward a resolution that promised both salvation and calamity. The trail of clues led them to a forsaken part of the metropolis, a district where the city's heartbeat was faint yet unyielding, a place where the air brimmed with the residue of years steeped in despair and the chill of untold secrets. In that final crucible of truth, every decision, every fleeting moment, resonated with the possibility of irreversible change. What had begun as a quest to uncover the whereabouts of a missing philanthropist had evolved into a journey to unearth the buried sins of an entire city. Here, amidst flickering street lamps and the distant murmur of restless crowds, the delicate balance between trust and treachery teetered perilously close to collapse. The labyrinthine corridors of power, hidden behind layers of deceit and complacency, were gradually laid bare by the determination of two souls entwined by fate. It was in this crucible of conflicting emotions and intertwined destinies that the final truth emerged, a truth that carried the weight of countless years, of promises made in the darkness and of the sacrifices demanded by an unyielding pursuit of justice. In the waning moments of that fateful night, as the city braced itself against the inevitability of exposure, the narrative of Elias Vance and Amelia became an indelible testament to the fact that nothing remains hidden forever. Their journey, fraught with peril, drenched in sorrow, and illuminated by sparks of unexpected hope, was the final chapter in a story that began long ago in the silent recesses of a haunted past. The city, a capricious witness to the interplay of memory and ambition, bore silent testimony to the enduring struggle between those who would shield the darkness and those who dared to ignite its inevitable flame. Thus, against a backdrop of secrets and reckoning, the legacy of Jonathan Thorne and the unresolved agony of Elias Vance found their culminating notes in the quiet resilience of a city determined to see the truth unleashed. Every raindrop that fell, every echo on an empty street, whispered of the sacrifices made in the name of progress, the hidden price of redemption, and the transformative power of confronting the shadows that bind us. In a final act of defiance against the machinations of unseen enemies, the pieces of the puzzle converged, and the truth, complex, terrible, and undeniably beautiful, revealed itself in a moment of stark clarity. In that singular, transcendent moment, the city, with its myriad secrets and tired hopes, seemed to sigh in relief, as though forgiving the sins of the past and embracing the uncertain promise of a new dawn. The story of Elias and Amelia, of lives intertwined among the dim light of forgotten alleyways and the relentless pulse of ambition, had become a living legend, a chronicle of trust and treachery, of redemption hard-won and of the silent, relentless battle for truth. The detective's haunted eyes captured that truth in their depths as he allowed himself the hard-won belief that even amid darkness, there can be a flicker of light strong enough to guide the soul toward an uncertain, yet urgently needed, redemption. And so, in the waning hours before the long-awaited daybreak, the city remained both a witness and a participant in the unfolding saga, a tale of shattered ideals and fragile hope, of lives interwoven with the threads of courage and despair. The legacy of a missing philanthropist, the scars of a retired detective burdened with memories too weighty to cast aside, and the vibrant determination of a young woman clinging to the truth, coalesced into a narrative that resonated through the very bones of an indifferent city. In that delicate interplay between fate and choice, between the inevitable and the defiant, the essence of justice, intricate, resilient, and irrevocably human, found its voice. Thus closed a chapter in a labyrinth of secrets, one that would forever be remembered as the final testament of those who, in the face of overpowering odds, chose to trust in the transformative power of truth. The journey of Elias Vance and Amelia, enshrouded in the quiet determination of broken lives seeking wholeness, ultimately redefined the meaning of witness and sacrifice. In the deep recesses of that city, where every corner held a story and every shadow a whispered secret, a single truth emerged, that the line between salvation and damnation is drawn not by destiny, but by the choices we dare make in the perpetual twilight of our own fallibility. And as the first rays of dawn began to tame the darkness, the silent, unyielding heartbeat of the city echoed with a promise that even the deepest wounds could, in time, serve as the scaffold upon which new beginnings are built. The legacy of the past, now intermingled with the hope of a future unburdened by the fetters of old deceits, propelled both Elias and Amelia beyond the confines of their own despair. Under the fragile light of a rising sun, every truth once obscured by the night began to shimmer with the possibility of absolution, a possibility that, in its purest form, reaffirmed the enduring belief that when the past is laid bare, redemption is never truly out of reach. In that moment of sublime clarity, the city revealed itself not merely as a labyrinth of regrets and forgotten memories, but as a living, breathing chronicle of transformation. The relentless pursuit of justice, etched into the very spirit of its inhabitants, had finally achieved something remarkable, a convergence of truth so profound that it pierced through the long-obscured veils of deception. And in that convergence, Elias Vance, the aged detective scarred by a career that had defined both his triumphs and his failures, found the courage to embrace a future where the past no longer wielded its paralyzing grip. Thus, The odyssey of the last known witness and the man who dared witness its unfolding reached its most poignant crescendo, a testament to the timeless battle between the forces of shadow and light, of despair and hope, and of truth and the inevitability of its own revelation. In the confluence of lives defined by secrets and the determination to overcome them, the city whispered its silent benediction to all who sought the elusive promise of redemption. Thus closed a chapter in a labyrinth of secrets, one that would forever be remembered as the final testament of those who, in the face of overpowering odds, chose to trust in the transformative power of truth. The journey of Elias Vance and Amelia, enshrouded in the quiet determination of broken lives seeking wholeness, ultimately redefined the meaning of witness and sacrifice. In the deep recesses of that city, where every corner held a story and every shadow a whispered secret, a single truth emerged, that the line between salvation and damnation is drawn not by destiny, but by the choices we dare make in the perpetual twilight of our own fallibility. And as the first rays of dawn began to tame the darkness, the silent, unyielding heartbeat of the city echoed with a promise that even the deepest wounds could, in time, serve as the scaffold upon which new beginnings are built. The legacy of the past, now intermingled with the hope of a future unburdened by the fetters of old deceits, propelled both Elias and Amelia beyond the confines of their own despair. Under the fragile light of a rising sun, every truth once obscured by the night began to shimmer with the possibility of absolution, a possibility that, in its purest form, reaffirmed the enduring belief that when the past is laid bare, redemption is never truly out of reach. In that moment of sublime clarity, the city revealed itself not merely as a labyrinth of regrets and forgotten memories, but as a living, breathing chronicle of transformation. The relentless pursuit of justice, etched into the very spirit of its inhabitants, had finally achieved something remarkable, a convergence of truth so profound that it pierced through the long-obscured veils of deception. And in that convergence, Elias Vance, the aged detective scarred by a career that had defined both his triumphs and his failures, found the courage to embrace a future where the past no longer wielded its paralyzing grip. Thus, the odyssey of the last known witness and the man who dared witness its unfolding reached its most poignant crescendo, a testament to the timeless battle between the forces of shadow and light, of despair and hope, and of truth and the inevitability of its own revelation. In the confluence of lives defined by secrets and the determination to overcome them, the city whispered its silent benediction to all who sought the elusive promise of redemption.